And in June, I was this close to depression. I was this close to depression. I called one of my friends, and then she spoke to me. She encouraged me. We were on call for like an hour. She was praying for me. She was encouraging me. I was very close to depression because at that point, almost every area of my life was down. My finances were down, right? My academics, we were preparing for exam. The last time I showed up on Instagram was in November 20 something 2024. And this was because of my 1 year social media break, because all through 2025 I spent it off all of my social media platforms, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my Facebook, my X, my everywhere, right? And a lot happened within that 1 year, right? First off, I'm glad to be back. I'm so glad to be back. I'm so glad to be able to survive last year, that now you can see me on my screen. I'll be on your screen rather. And a lot happened. I got depressed at some point. That was how crazy it was. Entering into the year, I did not know what to expect, right? I did not really have plans, right? I was just trusting God. Basically, that was what I was doing entering into the new year, because I started saving late, and in fact, when I entered the year in January, I had to empty my savings to buy an iPhone, right? And the reason I was getting this iPhone was so that I could document my journey, right? So I could document my social media break journey, and all of that. Unfortunately, on April 19, 2025, that's last year, I went for night class, and then the iPhone got stolen at night class. And then I had to get another phone on time, and I got another iPhone. But that decision would eventually lead me into debt, right? So at some point, I was owing a lot of money, like multiple six figures. And thank God for my mom. She really supported me. She really did, right? Um, but yeah, I was in that loan, and then I was battling that loan for a couple of months, right? And then every single month, God would show up again, right? My Upwork, I started getting jobs on Upwork, which was quite unusual, because for 2 years between 2022 that I created my Upwork account and 2024, December 2024, I only earned $300 from Upwork, right? But then on January 1st, 2025, that January 1st last year, I got a job that paid me $100 on January 1st. And for me, that was the sign I needed to. I picked that as God trying to communicate to me that this year is a year that you lock in on Upwork, and it's going to work for you. And so I revamped my Upwork, and I started getting jobs here and there occasionally from Upwork, and getting gigs here and there. And that was how I was able to survive up to June. And in June, I was this close to depression. I was this close to depression. I called one of my friends, and then she spoke to me. She encouraged me. We were on call for like an hour. She was praying for me. She was encouraging me. I was very close to depression because at that point, almost every area of my life was down. My finances were down, right? My academics, we were preparing for exams, and I was not yet prepared for the exam, right? And so I knew that I was just down all around. My relationships with people, it was down. Emotionally, I was down. I was going through a lot at that particular point emotionally, right? Going through a lot, right? A whole lot. And so every single area of my life, I mean, when I talk about emotionally, I'm talking about people disappointing me, right? I got a lot of disappointment, right? And I was so disappointed to a point where on June 27th, I had to tell myself, like, I had to consciously learn a powerful lesson. It's powerful to me because this lesson is one that that gave me, it pumped me back to life, right? Especially emotionally, which is that you can only be disappointed when their expectations. This lesson changed my life. You can only be disappointed when their expectations. The reason why they broke your heart is because you had expectations. And in a relationship, in the context of relationship, expectations are normal. Even in the context of friendship, expectations are normal. But then when there are no commitment, especially when there are no defined commitments, when the expectation become like one-sided and it looks like your expectations are not being are not being seen, are not being acknowledged, and maybe are not being reciprocated, then it now begins to bother you. And I think that was where I was at, right? And I had to learn that lesson that they can only be they can only be disappointed when their expectations. And so I had to like manage my expectation. The moment I learned that lesson, my emotional issue got sorted, right? And then gradually to entering into 2020, entering into July last year, which was like my birth month, I got a gig, a job that completely. This gig was like the beginning of my journey. With this gig, I sorted my debt, right? I cleared all my debt. I got an iPad, right? I got an iPad to celebrate my 21st birthday. It's actually it's close by. Right, this is like a Redmi Pad Pro. I think I got it for like 400,000 naira plus, right? And so moving from someone who has been struggling with debt, struggling with a lot, to someone who cannot afford this as a birthday gift was, you would know that a lot was already changing, right? And then in August, I got a full-time role with an international marketing agency, and that changed my journey. And you see, that was the beginning of the turnaround, right? So first half of last year was a whole lot. Second half of last year was like the turnaround, and then I also became top rated on Upwork and a lot, and then I'm in a better place now, right? The quality of life I have now is the quality of life I never had all through the 3 years I was online. Now, take note that I was comfortable. So I was comfortable. I was earning, right? Before my break, I was earning. I had like multiple sources of income. Uh, I mean, I was an influencer, right? I had like a large WhatsApp community. I was designing. I had like digital product. I was organizing classes. A lot was going on, right? But then I was giving so much of myself, so much so that it felt like I was losing myself, losing a part of myself, just to be able to serve people, just to be able to impact people, just to be able to give to people, give knowledge to people, give out value to people. It's almost like I got to a point where I genuinely became weak. The things that used to excite me, the engagement from my community that used to excite me, the engagement, the messages, the text, or everything, I just became tired. I became It almost like the pressure wanted to choke me. I was at that point where it almost felt like I was losing myself to I was no longer living up to the expectations, right? Expectation in the sense of people were reaching out to me for help with questions, and not that I could not answer their question, but then it felt like I no longer had time for myself, right? So if it felt like I no longer had time for myself, and if I'm not coming out, so it felt like I no longer had time for myself, and then felt like I was giving out so much of myself, so much so that at some point I just had to leave, right? And looking back now, I realized that that was God prompting me. It was like a burden, right? It was not just a decision I decided to take. It was a decision that I was prompted to take, if that makes sense. I mean, I didn't know then, right? It just felt like something I needed to take for my own growth. But then looking back now, looking at the journey, looking at the story, looking at the pattern, looking at every single thing, I felt like there were lessons God wanted me to learn. And even though I was not able to achieve all my goals for going off, right? But then the quality of my life improved. The quality of my life improved. And I look at my life now and I realize that it was worth it. I'm glad to be back now, right? And then I started showing up on Instagram, and I've not really been able to show up like I would want to, and that's why I'm making this video to just to welcome or just to get back to Instagram officially, because this year we are doing a lot of video contents, right? I got the camera, I got a MacBook, and this camera was a lot, right? It cost a lot, right? It cost over 1 million, it cost a fortune, and so expect to get tired of seeing me on your screen this year, right? I plan to like show my face a lot, because one of the things that I was able to deal with last year was my insecurity. For a long time, I had insecurity. I could not show my face on camera, but then I mean that was dealt with last year. And that's why I'm happy that I decided to get like the iPhone to document my journey, because that really helped me, right? And I was able to really focus on myself beyond the applause that comes from people on social media, especially because of the amazing work I've always been doing online. It's so easy to get carried away with the noise, with the applause, that you no longer see the need, right? Or you no longer have time to pressure yourself to like put in the work. But yeah, I'm glad to be back now, and back bigger, better, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.